how important is it to keep in contact with your client, to follow up with your client, or even pre-client, okay? Very important. It's something that agents are guilty of all of the time, if not most of the time. That didn't sound right. All of the time, if not most of the time. Okay, so back to this. Take it again. Okay, how important is follow-up? How important is keeping communication with your client? It's of utmost importance, okay? So if someone isn't quite your client yet, one of the ways that they can become a client of yours is follow-up. I've had a number of occasions where, let's say there was a local agent, an area agent, a relative or something like that, but I happened to be the one that kept communication with the client, and they eventually end up my client, okay? But even forward into a transaction, agents tend to take those first few steps, get the offer accepted, whether it's on the listing side or the buy side, and then go back to the secret agent move there, where they're sitting on the sidelines and they're letting everybody else do things, and they start to disconnect with their own client. Okay? So if you're on the listing side and you just kind of sat back because you feel like you did your job, you got it on market, you attracted a buyer, you opened an escrow, but now you're nowhere around, you're not showing up to the inspection for the buyer, you're not keeping a daily tab on where you are in the escrow and the transaction and informing your client and letting them know what's going on step by step, you start to lose that relationship. It becomes a long distance relationship. And if you do get any bumps in the road after the fact, after you kind of cut that tie and don't keep in communication, those things, if they are bumpy, sometimes they're not ironed out as well because you didn't keep that relationship going. If you had kept them going on the daily, then any news, whether it's positive or negative, they're going to receive it different. But if you disappeared for a week and then you've got news that, let's say, for example, you're a listing agent and the buyer's asking for credit or repairs, and it's a week after you opened escrow and you haven't talked to your client for a few days, and all of a sudden the first conversation back with them is, hey, they're asking for stuff, that may not be received well. If you keep communication with them and let them know things like, hey, the buyer's going to have their inspection today, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to go ahead and come back to you and relay any red flags that I hear from the inspector, and I'm going to communicate that to my seller and let them know. And on the daily, I'm going to check in with the agent on the other side and say, hey, are you going to ask for anything? Let me know. I'm going to go back to the client and say, hey, they haven't asked for anything yet, but they could. It could be something as simple as, hey, I'm just checking in with you today to let you know we really didn't have any changes or any activity, but if we do, I'll let you know. Okay? Got to keep that relationship going. You can't have too many consecutive days of not having a conversation with your own client, or else sometimes when you come back to that conversation, it feels very awkward. It feels like you're kind of getting to know each other all over again. The trust factor is kind of unties a bit. Okay, so keeping communication, follow up. It's something agents that are very guilty of much of the time, and it breaks that tie, it breaks that relationship. Got to stay on top of things. You'd be amazed how you being more consistent than the other person can win the client for you.